Hello folks, welcome back to my channel and to another video. I hope you're doing really well. Today is going to be episode 3 of a series that I'm calling The Horses Who Made Me. Before I get into it, I apologize for the somewhat messy background. You can see behind me, I'm in the process of doing a big spring clean, so my apartment is a little bit chaotic, as evidenced by the piles of books on the floor behind me. So I've done 2 of these videos in the past. The first one I did back in, I want to say September, October time, was about my childhood pony Chic, and then the second one that I did was about my high school lease mare Annabelle. And those 2 I kind of did in order, but from here on out, I'm going to kind of be touching on different horses as I get the desire to make videos about them. So I have at least another 3 planned aside from this one, but it takes quite a long time to go through videos, find pictures, kind of align a timeline of how things happened, because some of these horses I rode like 15 years ago, and my memory might not be the best of exactly what order things happened in. I'm going to be talking about 2 horses today, and they are 2 very special mares that I had the privilege and joy and utter honor of having in my life and riding between 2015 and 2016. And those horses are 2 beautiful mares named Splash and Genesee. So the story about how I started riding them is a pretty simple one. So I didn't ride for the entirety of my first year of university. When I finished, I want to say it was in April, I was like missing riding a lot. I had gone 8 months without riding, and that was the longest period I had ever been without being consistently in the saddle in my life, and I was miserable. I was missing it a lot, but I didn't have any money to pay for a lease. I didn't have any money to pay for lessons, but I was a fairly experienced and capable horse person. So I just posted on Facebook asking if anyone had any horses that they needed exercised, and one woman that I knew reached out to me and said she had a couple of horses that I could exercise. So I started riding there, and kind of by association, Splash and Genesee's owner Lisa heard about me or asked the lady that I was riding for if she knew of anybody, because she didn't have enough time to be consistently keeping both horses in work, so she needed someone to help keep Splash in work. The first year or so I started riding Splash. I was riding, I want to say, consistently 3 to 4 times a week, sometimes more. I really only rode Genesee in 2016, and yeah, I rode with Lisa at her place consistently for about a year and a half until September of 2016, when I moved to Scotland for a study abroad experience. And yeah, she remains one of my closest friends and confidants to this day. So that's kind of how I started riding there and how Splash and Genesee came into my life. I knew Lisa ages like before that, and I had seen Splash and Genesee out at local shows because the local horse community where I grew up is very small. So I knew of her, but I wasn't really super close with her until I started riding at her farm. So I'm gonna start with Splash because she was the first horse that I started riding there, and the one that I rode the longest. Splash was a chestnut quarter horse mare. She's probably like, I want to say 15-1, and she had the cutest white face. Like, she had one of the most unique white markings I've ever seen in my life. She was just the most adorable, cutest little horse you've ever met. She was born in 2001 and just had like the biggest personality. She was very cheeky and kind of lived by the beat of her own drum. My nickname for her was Cheeky Monkey or Spunky Monkey, depending on the day. If she didn't want to be caught, you would not catch her, but normally an apple or a carrot would do the trick. And she was just very loving and very goofy. I have many a picture of her sticking her tongue out or making a funny face. Prior to me riding her, she did a lot of dressage and jumping, but I mostly did dressage and like the odd like pole work stuff with her. But by the time that I started riding her, I think she had pretty much retired from jumping. So I started riding her in June of 2015 when she was 14 and I was 19. I think she had been in and out of work for a while, so when I started riding her, there was a bit of a period of getting her used to being consistently in work again and kind of building up her fitness level to the level of a horse who's in full-time work. She had like the most powerful trot, especially considering her size, and her canter was very beautiful but very bouncy. I think sometimes, quite often, the most beautiful, powerful canters are very hard to sit. So a huge part of me getting used to her was learning to ride her gaits, because she moved very differently to pretty much any other horse I had ridden before, especially such a a little horse. At the start, I had major issues sitting to her canter, but I eventually got to a point where I could sit it half decently. It was absolutely wonderful to be in a scenario where I was riding with someone else again, and I would go out there all times of the day depending on the weather. Sometimes I would go out and meet Lisa at like 7 a.m., 7 p.m. We'd watch the sunset, watch the sunrise. It depended on the weather. It was a very hot summer, so I remember a lot of very early mornings or very late nights. So throughout that first summer with Splash, I took a few dressage lessons with a local instructor who was classically trained, and that was kind of my first taste of the benefits of a solid dressage foundation, and they were also my first proper dressage lessons. I also got the opportunity to take a couple of like pole work, cavaletti lessons with the instructor that I had had like from the ages of 10 to 18, so it was really nice to get to ride with her again, even if it was just a couple times. And the property that the horses were on is like literally my dream property. It has gorgeous groomed grass trails and a park to ride in. At that point, I hadn't really ridden that much outside of the arena, at least in terms of hacking, so it was a big learning and confidence curve for me because I was not nervous, but I was just a bit apprehensive when we started, but I grew to really love it, and that kind of love that I have for hacking still remains to this day, as evidenced by the amount of hacks that I go on in my videos. And we would go out and we would take Splash and Genesee for long trots and long canters, and let me tell you, although she was like a whole 2 hands shorter than Genesee, Splash could keep up when she wanted to. So in the fall of 2015, I entered my second year of university. I had made the decision to live at home mostly just because the cost of residence was so expensive, and I had a car and was driving back and forth, so living at home and staying in the local area meant that I was still able to go out and ride lots, which I was really happy about. University was stressful and I put a lot of pressure on myself, so having the farm and the horses and Lisa to go to and to spend time at and with was a real blessing, and it really helped me throughout my second year of university. Fun fact is that Splash was also the first horse that I ever rode bitless. So I want to say a month or 2 in, she was having some like jaw issues, and we thought it was related to like her TMJ. So when we switched her from bitted to bitless, I was quite nervous because I was concerned about the level of brakes and like control I would have. But she took to it like a duck to water, and I never had any issues, and it really gave me a lot of confidence. So the farm has a beautiful outdoor arena, but not an indoor arena. So throughout the winter, we rode in the snow. We went on a lot of hacks. We would ride in the deep snow in the arena, and then when that got to a point where the footing wasn't great, Lisa would plow it and we would stud them up and we would ride on the snow. And even though we didn't ride as much because of the cold, I think we still managed a good 2 to 3 rides per week, which I think is pretty good. That's pretty much the amount of rides that I have the energy for now in the winter. And another new thing is like I had never really ridden in the snow before, so it took a bit of learning and getting used to realize that I had to allow the horse to kind of find their own balance in the snow, and that we couldn't work in the same kind of outline in deeper snow that we could in normal arena footing or out in grass. And yeah, I kept riding Splash pretty regularly, about 3 to 4 times a week all throughout 2016. Though at that point my attention had kind of focused more on Genesee for a few months. And yeah, she was just the coolest horse. I loved riding her so much. I felt so safe on her. And yeah, she just had the absolute best personality. And one of the things that she taught me is that you can't judge a breed by its stereotypes. She was a quarter horse. She was a purebred quarter horse, but she was the most un-quarter horsey, like stereotypy quarter horse I've ever met. You know, she had an incredible amount of power for such a little horse. She had a lot of pep in her step. Quarter horses are known for being quite, some people would call them dull, lazy, not having as much energy, but she was so vibrant and vivid and full of life. And yeah, just such a cool little horse. So then we turned to Genesee, who was a bay, I think she was a Belgian warm blood mare. She was around 17 1 hands, and she just had the most perfect white star on her face and a couple of white legs. She was born in 2007, so when I started riding her, she was 9. And she's one of those horses with a bigger than life personality that a lot of people would label as quirky or difficult, but those labels just come from a place of misunderstanding. She was incredibly sensitive and had like her people, and I don't think that she would have been the kind of lesson horse type that could be ridden by loads of different people and not care about it. She definitely had her people, and I was honored to become one of those people. Genesee did both dressage and jumping, and I did a little bit of both with her. So I rode her for the first time, I want to say at the end of July in 2015, about a month and a half after I started riding Splash. Lisa and I did a pony swap. I remember being really daunted because she was the biggest horse I'd ever ridden up to that point, and also the most fancy and kind of expressive mover I had ever ridden. And yeah, I fell absolutely in love with her in just those like 20 or 25 minutes that I was on her. So I really started riding her consistently for about 6 months throughout 2016 when her owner was out of commission for a little while, at least in terms of riding, due to an injury. And it was the most beautiful, jam-packed and educational 6 months of my riding career so far. It was a really busy 6 months, but a lot of fun, and I learned a lot and had so many wonderful experiences. And I think that my riding improved more in those 6 months than it did in the 3 years previous to that. Oh my God, this is what happens when I talk a lot. My voice goes all crazy. So Genesee was my first experience riding such a big, powerful, and like uphill moving warm blood. Annabelle had been big and had a lot of power, but it was directed more forwards rather than upwards. So she was actually very easy to sit and very comfy. Genesee was a more dynamic and like powerful mover. And it took me quite a while to get used to her stride, but eventually I got there. So in April, the weather started to improve, the snow was melting, and the footing in the arena was soft and not icy. So I got her back into full work, and we started taking a couple of dressage and pull work lessons on her. These lessons and experiences really helped me to get used to her, to learn, you know, her quirks and way of going, and to gain confidence on such a large horse. We also started jumping little things in the spring, and my God, did it take me a long time to get used to her stride and like finding a distance and like developing an eye on her. The start of my jumping journey with her, I think I missed more strides than I hit. It was almost embarrassing for me because I had developed quite a good eye over the years. I just wasn't used to such a long stride. I had jumped a lot the previous summer on one of the other horses, well, ponies that I was catch riding, but he had such a short stride and something I was more used to, so it was way different. People don't talk about it, but the transition from a pony to especially a bigger horse is more difficult for some people than for others. And my God, did she have such a beautiful and like powerful jump. It really, really felt like flying. And throughout the summer of 2016, we did a few jump lessons at the farm. We did a lot of pole work and like schooling days with Lisa guiding us. And we also did a few off-property adventures. So I was back to taking regular lessons with my coach who I had been with for ages as a kind of preteen and teen. So that was really, really nice. And kind of with every jump school, our partnership and confidence just grew and grew and grew. There was one particular clinic with my coach in May of 2016 actually at the other farm that I had been catch riding at the previous year, where it kind of felt like I started to get her and really develop my eye on her. And we had a few really, really nice rounds. I also did another couple of clinics with her, attempted a schooling show where I actually fell off and didn't end up getting, well, I got back on and finished the round, but I was quite sore. I hurt my knee. And by the end of the summer, I think we were confidently jumping courses of 2, 9, and 3 feet, which I hadn't jumped in years since, like not since Annabelle. And we also jumped the highest that she had ever jumped and the highest that I had jumped in a while, which was I think about 3.3. and she just like soared right over it and has such a beautiful form. To this day, although the video quality isn't great, the video and resulting screenshot are like some of my favorite riding footage and video that I have of me, because I'm just obsessed with her, and also I'm actually for once happy with my position and my equitation over the fence, which for me is quite rare. And yeah, she was just an incredibly athletic animal with a lot of talent. Jen was another horse who really cemented the idea of listening to your horse when they're trying to tell you something. She was very like expressive and wasn't afraid to tell you, sometimes very loudly, if something was wrong or if she didn't feel quite right. She was very high energy, in particular about the way that she liked things. But if you listened to her and gave her the grace of doing things her way and the way that she was comfortable with, she would give everything to you. And yeah, I had the most incredible 6 months with her. So much happened during that time that it felt like it lasted way longer than 6 months, but also it just flew by. But in my mind, like that time of riding Genesee seems like so much longer than it actually was. I think partly because of the amount of stuff that we did within that time. She taught me so much, and she really gave me faith in my abilities as a rider. You know, before her, I was especially convinced that I was just never gonna learn, or just wasn't capable of learning how to connect a horse and really get them working in an outline. She was one of the horses that started to teach me otherwise. So I think one of the reasons why Splash and Genesee stick out a lot in my mind when it comes to like horses that I've had in my life is because I actually spent a lot of time with them out of the saddle, because I used to horse sit them when Lisa would go away camping with her family or on vacation. And over the winter and kind of early spring of 2016, I was also helping a lot with like the day-to-day chores. So I'd go out and feed them, turn them out, do their stalls while Lisa was recovering from her injury. As a result, I spent a lot of time with them out of the saddle, taking care of them, learning their body languages, and just hanging out.
What are you guys doing? Does the burn taste yummy, girls?
Wanna go outside? Come on. Oh, it's a food. Hey, you, do you want a treat? Yes? Is that a nod?
When I was horse sitting, I would quite often bring like a book and a chair out into their fields and just sit there and hang out with them and read. And it was some of the most like peaceful times. I have so many pictures of like a book and then one of them in the background. They would come over, they would sniff, they might spend some time and then just go on and move about their day. And horse sitting them and spending more time with them outside of the saddle really taught me the importance of spending time with and observing horses during their rest periods, you know, to see how they interact with other horses, learn the kind of calming signals and behavior markers that they might exhibit, how they navigate their environment, and how they deal with and cope with different things being thrown at them, like different weather, different types of footing, things like that. And yeah, while riding and learning from them was absolutely incredible, some of my favorite memories with them and experiences with them was just hanging out with them, spending time with them and Lisa. They were both incredibly kind and loving and expressive horses who gave you their all if they trusted you, especially Genesee. So you've probably been noticing that I've been saying was rather than is, because heartbreakingly neither of the girls are with us anymore. If they were still around, I think Splash would be 22 this year and Genesee would be 16, which blows my mind. So I was in Scotland when I found out that Jen had to be put down at the end of October in 2016, and it was like such a shock. I think I had been to see her the day before I had left in September, and I had given her a big kiss and told her I'd see her again in a few months. And yeah, I didn't know that that would be the last time that I would see her. I was in one of the most beautiful parts of the world and my heart was just absolutely breaking. But I took comfort in the fact that she was galloping in greener pastures. So after Jen passed away, Splash became Lisa's primary horse again, because at that point she only had the one horse. So I didn't ride her as much. I did have one really nice ride on her in January of 2017, shortly after I got back from Scotland. And then I started riding another horse full time for almost 2 years, who I'm hopefully going to make a video about very soon. But I still visited at least once a week and spent as much time as I could with her and Lisa. But sadly and heartbreakingly, at the end of July of 2017, I think, Splash had to be put down. We knew it was coming because she had been diagnosed with something that had no cure and would eventually lead to a decrease in her quality of life, but it didn't make it any less hard or any less sad. I'm just so grateful to Lisa for taking me on and taking me under her wing, teaching me so many lessons, being a shoulder to cry on, and giving me the honor of loving and spending time with her two beautiful, lovely girls. And yeah, I just have such fond memories of that year and a half. You can tell I'm trying not to cry, so I'm just gonna pause for a second, breathe. And yeah, things kind of came actually full circle because in 2017, Lisa actually ended up buying one of the horses that I had catch ridden the previous year. It was a 3-year-old Canadian sport horse that had had about 2 weeks of training. And yeah, I kind of brought him up and worked with him throughout his first couple of months under saddle. So I rode him as a 3-year-old and she bought him as a 5-year-old. So it's so wonderful when I go to see her now because not only do I get to see her, but I also get to see him, and he's kind of in my life for the rest of his. And he's another horse that I cherish a lot, so I'm so happy that I still get to see him whenever I go visit Lisa. Those are the stories of Splash and Genesee. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I'm gonna link the playlist to the other 2 Horses Who Made Me videos that I've made if you want to check them out. They're some of my favorite videos to make because I really get to take a trip down memory lane and really honor the horses who have had a huge impact on who I am, both as a person and as a horsewoman. So although I will have sprinkled a few clips and pictures throughout this video, I do want to end just like I did the last 2 videos. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.
You fall in love